Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of our podcast about cybersecurity leadership. I'm the person who will be moderating this discussion. Today we're going to talk about a very important and timely topic: cognitive security and the human layer defense, turning awareness into adaptive resilience. This is all about the human side of cybersecurity, how we keep people safe and give them the tools they need to fight against new threats. Polat, our guest, is an expert in cybersecurity strategy with a focus on defense that is centered on people. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this. It's a topic that's really close to my heart, and frankly one that's becoming more urgent by the day. We have spent decades fortifying our networks and devices, but attackers have increasingly realized the easiest way in is often through us, the people. So I think this conversation is going to be really valuable.
Absolutely. Before we get started, I want to give our listeners some background. When we talk about cognitive security and human layer defense, aren't we really talking about protecting the mind and behavior of people from cyber attacks and manipulation? In other words, seeing human users as an important part of defense instead of just possible victims. And our goal today is to find out how we can make basic security awareness more dynamic, like an adaptive resilience that can handle new threats.
Cognitive security is about protecting how people think, make decisions, and trust information when there are cyber threats. It's a big idea that includes keeping the mind safe from tricks and lies. And human layer defense means all the practices we use to strengthen that human element. From training and culture, building the tools and processes that support people. It is recognizing that your employees, your users, everyone between the keyboard and chair are part of your security posture.
Great. And one more thing for the listeners. We're not going to talk about any products or companies in this discussion. This is pure thought leadership and useful information for security leaders. So, let's get started. So to start, can you explain why human beings have become such primary targets in cyber attacks? I mean, we hear slogans like, humans are the weakest link, but what's driving that focus on the human layer?
That's a great question. The short answer is because it works. Attacking humans often works better than attacking technology. We have gotten pretty good at locking down software and networks with patches, firewalls, and encryption. But attackers have found that tricking a person can be much easier than hacking a well-secured system. In fact, multiple studies show the majority of breaches start with some kind of human error or social engineering. One major breach report found roughly 60% of initial compromise in breaches comes from a human doing something like clicking a malicious link, opening a booby-trapped attachment, or falling for a fake login page. And some analyzers go even further, estimating that over 90% of security incidents involve a human element at some point.
Wow, so up to 95%. That's huge.
It is now, those numbers might vary, but the core idea holds. Humans have become the primary attack vector. Attackers now know this. They are shifting tactics from just finding technical vulnerabilities to targeting what one expert cleverly called the wetware, our brains. Instead of cracking strong encryption, it is often easier to trick an employee into revealing their password or to con someone in finance into writing money to a fraudulent account.
Right. Why pick the lock when the front door is open, so to speak?
Exactly. And I want to emphasize this isn't because people are stupid or anything. It is because attackers have gotten incredibly sophisticated at manipulating human nature. They exploit our trust, our emotions, our cognitive biases. We are social creatures. We want to help or we react under pressure. Threat actors take advantage of that. Phishing emails, for example, have evolved way beyond an old Nigerian prince cliches. Today's phishing is hyper-personalized and convincing. Hackers will research your company, your role, maybe your recent LinkedIn posts, and craft an email just for you. It might mention a project you are working on or appear to come from your actual boss. These scams push the right psychological buttons: urgency, fear, curiosity, to get people to click before they think.
I've seen some of those, and it's true. A well-crafted fish can be almost indistinguishable from a real message.
Absolutely. And it's not just an email anymore. We are seeing multi-channel social engineering. Text messages, we call it smishing. Phone calls, we call it phishing. Messaging apps, social media, DMs. Attackers will use whatever medium catches you off guard. For example, you might get a text that looks like an urgent alert from your bank, or a voice call from someone claiming to be tech support. People to trust text and calls more than random emails, and attackers know that.
So they're basically exploiting trust and context.
Yes, and current events too. A classic move is leveraging whatever it is in the news or on people's minds. Natural disaster, a pandemic, taxation, big corporate announcements, anything to make a lure more believable and timely. For instance, during COVID, there was an explosion of phishing around stimulus payments and PPE orders. Right now, imagine a phishing email about a new AI tool your company is supposedly rolling out. People are curious and might click.
It sounds like attackers are really using social intelligence to prey on human tendencies.
They are. Another big example is business email compromise, BEC, where attackers impersonate a CAO or vendor or trick someone into fraudulent wire transfer. These BEC scammers do their homework, studying how a particular executive writes, understand the company's approval process, so that the fake request looks completely routine. They might even time it for when the real boss is on vacation, so nobody can easily double check. It is not just random spray and pray phishing, it's targeted con artistry.
It's almost like a heist movie level of planning, but through emails and phone calls.
That's a good analogy, and the payoff can be huge. These human-focused attacks bypass many traditional defenses. Your fancy firewall or antivirus won't stop an employee from willingly handing over data if they believe the request is legitimate. That's why we say technology alone isn't enough. The human liar needs strengthening.
It really underlines why cognitive security, protecting how people think and act under these pressures, is becoming so important.
Right. Attackers are literally hacking our cognition, and it is getting even trickier with advances in technology, which brings us to the whole AI angle, I think.
Yes, let's talk about that. We're not just dealing with human scam artists anymore, we have AI in the mix. How is artificial intelligence changing the landscape of social engineering and cognitive threats?
AI is a game changer on both offense and defense, but on the offense side, it is supercharging attackers' abilities. We are now seeing threats that we categorize as cognitive attacks. These are attacks explicitly designed to manipulate perception and thinking at scale. With AI, attackers can automate and personalize their social engineering like never before. Let me give you a couple of examples. One is deepfakes. Using AI to create fake but very realistic videos or audio, we have reached the point where a bad actor can generate a video of CEO or a politician saying something they never actually said, or synthesize a perfect imitation of someone's voice. One 2023 report found a 1,600% increase in deepfake attacks year over year. That's a staggering growth. These have been used in fraud, like tricking a bank manager into approving a transfer by using an AI-generated voice of a company executive. Imagine getting a voicemail from your boss that really sounds like them instructing you to do something urgent. It's very hard for average person to realize that's fake. Another one is AI-driven phishing at scale. Attackers are using large language models to craft phishing messages that are grammatically perfect, contextually tailored, and even mimic the style of particular individuals. It's not a human manually writing scam emails anymore. An AI can pop out thousands of unique, high-quality bait messages in seconds. A recent threat report noted that AI has accelerated the creation of convincing phishing lures and made them more effective. These messages can reference real company projects or use personal details scraped from social media to lower your guard.
So an AI could scrape my LinkedIn and Twitter, then write an email that sounds like it's from my colleague, referencing a project I'm actually working on, all automatically. That's frightening.
Exactly. And another dimension is adaptiveness. We now have AI that can do a kind of reinforcement learning in social engineering. In linear terms, AI can adjust its approach based on what works on you. Think of an AI-driven scam chatbot that chats with someone over days or weeks, gradually building trust, figuring out their triggers, and honing the pitch. If you don't fall for the first story, it tries a slightly different angle the next time, learning from each attempt. This is not science fiction. Experiments have shown AI bots can engage people convincingly on forums, on social media, grooming them over time.
It's like each target can have a custom-tailored con, optimized by machine learning.
That's right. We are basically looking at industrialized social engineering. The attackers can run A and B tests on phishing emails, use algorithms to pick the most successful lures, and even deploy swarms of AI chatbots for disinformation or scams. And unfortunately, AI can also help them avoid detection, creating messages that slip past spam filters or coordinating botnets that appear more human-like, so they also don't trigger defenses easily.
With deepfakes and AI-written messages becoming so realistic, it sounds like the classic advice, just be vigilant. Look for typos or odd phrasing is losing effectiveness.
It is. We can no longer rely on obvious tells like bad grammar or generic greetings. AI generating phishing is often polished. A recent piece I read said, AI generating phishing has already become one of the top enterprise threats, even surpassing some traditional malware in frequency. Attackers can also use AI for things like micro-targeting propaganda on social media. Algorithms can profile you and feed you misinformation tailored to your beliefs to sway your opinions. That blurs into the realm of misinformation and cognitive warfare, which is a whole other battlefront, but it is related because it is attacking human perception.
It feels like we are in an arms race, AI versus AI, truth versus fake. How do humans stand a chance when the attackers can weaponize these technologies?
That's the crux of cognitive security. We have to strengthen the human defenses in parallel with deploying our own AI tools. On human side, it means we need to upgrade from basic awareness to what I would call cognitive resilience. You can't train every person to spot a deepfake visually. Some fakes are just too good. But you can train people in habits like pause and verify. For example, if an audio message says it's your CIO, maybe verify through another channel before acting, or involve a second person to approve unusual requests. Basically, we have to install a sort of skeptical mindset and adaptive thinking.
That makes sense. Training the instinct to take a step back and double-check when something big is on the line, rather than expecting everyone to magically detect a perfectly crafted fake.
Exactly. It's like building a cognitive immune system. Just as our body's immune system doesn't recognize every pathogen on sight, but knows how to respond to infection in general. A cognitive immune system in an organization means your people have the reflexes and processes to handle suspicious scenarios, even if it is a novel attack. That might not know it is a deepfake, but they know something feels off, and they have a culture that encourages them to speak up or verify.
I like that analogy. So, part of this is culture and part is training. We'll dig into both soon. But before that, can we talk about one more challenge? Our own human biases. I know attackers exploit things like our biases and emotional reactions. How do those play into cognitive security?
I'm glad you brought that up. Humans have predictable cognitive biases, mental shortcuts, and patterns that can be exploited. For instance, confirmation bias, we tend to believe information that confirms what we really think. If an attacker knows you are worried about, say, a competitor, they might craft a phishing lure that confirms your fear. Insider info, competitor planning to poach your clients, and you are more likely to click. There is the authority bias. We obey instructions from authority figures. A deepfake of CIO or even just an email with their name on it taps into that bias. Scarcity bias. We jump on limited time offers or urgent deadlines. Phishers love subject lines about act now or lose access. Attackers know these psychological levers well.
It's almost like social engineering is applied psychology and not in a good way.
Very much so. On the flip side, part of our defense has to be educating people about these biases. Studies in cognitive psychology have shown that just being aware of your own biases and learning to spot when they are being manipulated can help you resist the manipulation. For example, training employees if a message makes you emotional, whether excited, fearful, or anxious, that's a red flag. Attackers want to short circuit your relational brain by inducing a strong emotion. So take a breath and analyze it calmly before acting. We actually incorporate lessons on common cognitive biases and advanced security awareness programs now. It's not just don't click bad clicks, but also here is how your brain can fool you and how others can take advantage of it.
That's fascinating. It goes beyond traditional IT training into almost a personal psychology lesson for employees.
It does, and I think that's where we are headed. Merging cybersecurity training with principles of psychology and decision science. We want to create not just aware employees, but adaptively aware employees. People who can recognize when their cognitive strings are being pulled and adapt in the moment.
This is a perfect segue into the core of our discussion, turning awareness into adaptive resilience. Most organizations have some kind of security awareness program, maybe annual training, phishing simulations, posters on the wall, that kind of thing. Why isn't awareness alone enough? What's missing that we need to achieve adaptive resilience?
Oh, great question. Traditional security awareness training has been a bit of a checkbox exercise in many places. You watch a 20-minute video once a year, answer a few quiz questions, and you are certified for compliance. The problem is knowing isn't the same as doing. Employees might know the rules in theory, but in the heat of the moment, when that cleverly crafted phishing email hits their inbox among hundreds of real emails, that awareness can fly right out the window.
Right? It's one thing to pass a quiz, another to actually pause before clicking a link when you're busy.
Exactly. The gap is in behavior and culture. Awareness training often stops at, I inform you of the risks. But adaptive resilience is about changing behavior and mindsets long term, so that people consistently make secure choices and bounce back from mistakes. A resilience organization anticipates that people will slip up occasionally, so it builds layers of defense and a culture of learning from those slips. One practical issue is frequency and engagement. If training is only once a year, it is not going to stick. Imagine trying to learn a language by taking one class a year. You would never become fluent. Similarly, so build secure habits. You need the continuous reinforcement. That's why leading programs now do your around micro training, phishing drills, etc. to keep security top of mind. It has to be ongoing.
So repetition and practice, not one and done.
Yes, another issue is that many programs have been generic and boring. Let's be honest, people zone out if the training doesn't feel relevant or if it is patronizing. To really change behavior, training content needs to be engaging and tailored. By tailored, I mean if you are in finance, you should see scenarios about wire fraud and invoice scams. If you are in HR, maybe it's about phishing that looks like a job applicant email. When people see scenarios that reflect their real-world life, they pay attention. Also, using interactive methods like quizzes, games, or even friendly competitions can vastly improve retention. There's a push forward or push towards gamification and bite-sized learning modules that are even a bit fun or challenging rather than dry lectures.
I've heard of companies doing things like escape room themed security exercises or internal phishing tournaments where departments compete to report phish. That kind of thing sounds more engaging.
Absolutely. I've run some simulations where we actually reward teams for reporting phishes or spotting vulnerabilities. It taps into people's competitive and collaborative spirit in a positive way. The key is to create a vigilant culture without creating a climate of fear. We want people to be on their toes, but not terrified that if they make one mistake, they will get fired.
That's an important point. I suspect one reason people fail to report incidents or admit mistakes is fear of punishment or embarrassment.
You are exactly right. Culture plays a huge role. If clicking a bad link gets you shamed or penalized harshly, employees will just hide incidents. That's deadly for security because it means potential breaches go unreported until it is too late. Instead, organizations should foster what we call a just culture, where mistakes are treated as learning opportunities rather than personal failings. I always encourage a strong reporting culture. Make it easy and non-punitive for employees to say, hey, I clicked something suspicious, or I got this weird email. I'm not sure about it. Leaders should respond with, thanks for reporting it. Let's check it out. Not, how could you fall for that? Every reported phishing email or attempted scam is valuable intelligence for security team. It helps improve filters, warn others, and sometimes even catch the attackers in their tracks.
So part of adaptive resilience is the organization's ability to learn and adapt, not just the individuals.
Yes, adaptive resilience is both individual and collective. On the individual level, it is employees learning and getting better over time, like someone who fell for a fish once, but because the follow-up training was supportive and informative, they become one of the most vigilant reporters of phishing next time. On the organizational level, it is measuring what's working and what's not, and continually improving the program. For example, say our phishing simulation click rates are not decreasing, or one department has high risky behavior. That feedback should adapt our strategy. Maybe they need more tailored trainings, or we need to address a specific misunderstanding.
This reminds me of the concept of a feedback loop, applying the OODA loop observant diacide act to security training. Perhaps
that's a great connection. Yes, we want a feedback loop. Traditional awareness programs were like a dead loop. Train, forget. An adaptive program observes how people actually behave through tests and real incidents, orients by analyzing where the gaps are, decides on changes, maybe now content or campaigns, and act by implementing them, then repeat. I have seen some organizations moving to this model, where security awareness is managed with the same rigor as, say, an engineering process, with metrics, continuous improvements, and agile adjustments.
we'll talk more about metrics later, because I definitely want to hear how a CISO can gauge if their human defense is improving. But before that, let's continue on what new approaches are out there. Let's get concrete. What are some of the novel strategies or fresh approaches to building human layer defense that go beyond the old annual training paradigm? How do we actually turn awareness into adaptive resilience on the ground?
Sure, I'll break it down into a few categories of action. Education techniques, cultural initiatives, and supportive techniques or technologies. We have touched on education a bit, but let's go a bit deeper with fresh twists. First of all, continuous and adaptive learning. Instead of everyone getting the same static training, there is a move forward, adaptive learning paths. This means training that adjusts to an employee's role, behavior, or even past performance. For example, if someone fails a phishing test, the system might automatically assign a quick refresher module right then and there, just-in-time training, rather than waiting for unusual course. Conversely, if someone is very savvy, maybe they get more advanced topics to keep them challenged. This keeps learning efficient and relevant. Not too easy to be boring, not too hard to be focusing. The another is micro-learning and gamification. As we discussed, breaking training into micro doses like 5-minute lessons or a single actionable tip sent out every week, people are more likely to remember one key tip a week than 50 tips dumped in an hour session. Some companies push out short interactive quizzes or even use mobile apps that feel like a game. You might get scenarios and have to quickly identify if it is a fish or legit earning points. It's kind of like Duolingo, but for security habits. This game-like aspect can spur printed competition, such as departments can earn badges for high scores in phishing detection. It sounds a bit cheesy, but it works when done. right when it drives engagement. The last one is behavioral conditioning. This is interesting. Some are using principles of behavioral psychology to enforce good behaviors. For example, positively reinforcing people who report incidents. I have seen a firm give a small reward or recognition each quarter to the employee who submitted the most useful security reports. It could be a gift card or a simple shout out in the company newsletter. That kind of positive reinforcement conditions people that, hey, being vigilant is appreciated around here. On the flip side, if someone repeatedly does risky things like plugs in random USB sticks or clicks every phishing email, instead of just scolding, a new approach is maybe have a personal coaching session. It's more work, but it beats having that person remain a ticking time bomb. There is also tech that can intervene. Say someone tries to visit a non-malicious site. It could pop up a quick "Are you sure? Look, this looks unsafe" prompt, which both stops the action and teaches the user in the moment. These are like nudges.
Interesting, like the system giving a gentle tap on the shoulder at the moment of risk, turning it into a teachable moment.
Exactly. In fact, modern email systems and security software are adding these kinds of creatures. For example, some email clients will detect external emails or potential spoofing and display a warning banner. This email is from outside the organization, or the display's name looks similar to your CIO, but the email is different. Those prompts force a pause. I consider that part of human layer defense too. Designing interfaces and systems that help users make the right decision. It's not all on the user's shoulders. Good UX can guide behavior. Now, beyond training, culture is huge, as we noted. Some new approaches that include we can say three things. One is leadership and storytelling. Leadership has to actively participate. I have seen CISOs and even CIOs send out personal notes or short videos about a phishing attempt that hit them and how they handled it. When employees see leaders taking it seriously, it resonates. One CIO I know even deliberately participated in a phishing simulation and then shared the whole company how he initially got fooled by it until he double-checked. That kind of vulnerability and storytelling from the top sends a powerful message. It's okay to admit it almost got you. What matters is learning and improving. Leaders can set the tone that security is part of our culture, collective culture, that just an IT rule. Peer involvement. Make security a peer conversation, not just top-down. For instance, having security champions in different teams, regular employees who are given extra training, and then serve as local go-to persons for security questions. They can separate tips in their own department's language, help new hires get up to speed, etc. It decentralizes the knowledge, and peers often listen to peers more than to corporate communications. Integrating security into onboarding and routine. This isn't flashy, but it is important. Don't treat security awareness as a separate, weird thing. Integrate key security behaviors into day-to-day workflows. For example, when someone joins the company, right on day one, the onboarding should include not just policy reading, but interactive orientation on how to report phish, how to use the password manager, etc. Make it clear from the get-go that this is how we work around here, and then reinforce those messages in regular team meetings or internal communications. Some companies have monthly security teams, like October is Secure Password Month, where they push everyone to update weak passwords. November might be Phishing Awareness Month, etc. These campaigns keep the conversation alive continuously.
These are great. It sounds like the key themes are engagement, relevance, and continuous improvement. Treat people like active participants in defense, not liabilities.
Absolutely. I sometimes use the term human firewall, meaning when properly empowered, your employees collectively act like a firewall that filters out threats. But unlike a static firewall box, Humans can learn and adapt, which is a big advantage if we harness it. We have seen cases when an employee's quick thinking stopped a major breach, like spotting an odd invoice that turned out fraudulent or a help desk employee who questioned a social engineering call. Those are wins for the human firewall adapt concept.
On that note, do you have any examples or anecdotes, anonymized of course, where an organization's focus on human layer defense really paid off?
Sure, one comes to mind. A mid-sized financial company I consulted for, they had been hit by a spear phishing attack where a few employees nearly wired out a large sum of money. It was caught in a time by a manual verification step. This scare pushed them to overhaul their approach. They implemented many of the things we are talking about: frequent phishing simulations, leadership involvement, etc. About a year later, a real phishing attack targeted them. Very well crafted emails posing a new vendor with fake invoices. One employee got the email and something felt off to her, partly because she remembered the training about urgency and payment requests. She reported it immediately. The security team found it was an active BAC attempt and managed to block several other similar emails that had just arrived for her colleagues. It turned into a non-incident. The CISO later told me previously that would have almost certainly slipped through the cost them dearly. The difference was the culture and preparedness they had built. One alert person basically saved the day, but she would say the training saved her from falling for it. That's adaptive resilience in action. She wasn't just aware, she was ready to adapt when faced with something new.
That's a great success story. It highlights that while attackers are innovating, defenders, especially the human defenders, can rise to the challenge with the right preparation.
Definitely. It's very gratifying to see when investments in people pays off like that.
Let's switch gears a bit. We've talked a lot about the human side, but what about the technology that supports the human layer? How can organizations leverage tech to enhance cognitive security without replacing the human judgment? For example, are there tools to detect deepfakes or to help humans identify threats better?
Great topic. Technology and humans should have a symbiotic relationship in security. Neither is sufficient alone. On the tech side supporting humans, one is AI-powered detection tools. The good news is the same AI that empowers attackers also gives us a new defensive tools. For instance, there are AI-based filters that detect phishing emails by learning what normal communication looks like in your company and flagging anomalies like subtle differences in writing style or unusual requests. Some tools can catch deepfake audio by analyzing acoustic anomalies or detect deepfake videos using machine learning that spots weird artifacts. There are companies out there that specialize in deepfake detection platforms, and while they are not foolproof, they add a layer of protection. If an employee gets a voicemail that an AI has flagged as potentially spoofed, that's a huge help for them to know, oh, I should definitely double check this via another channel. Secondly, authenticity infrastructure. Another approach is using technology to make it easier to verify that's what's real. These include things like digital signatures on emails or documents so that you can verify the sender's identity, or even blockchain-based methods to verify media authenticity. Imagine every video message from your CIO come with a secure digital watermark that could be validated. Then a fake one would fail on the test. Some news organizations are exploring similar ideas for media to counter deepfakes. In enterprises, even something simple like an internally developed codeword system for high-risk transactions can help through that's more policy process than tech. But broadly, tech that provides trusted verification can counter some AI fakes. The third is user aids and automation. We touched on interface warnings. There are also browser plugins that can alert users if a site they are visiting is a brand new or has characteristics of phishing. Modern password managers will warn you if you are entering credentials on a site that isn't usual URL. These are little safety nets for moments when a human's about to step into a trap. Also consider AI assistants. In the future, we might have personal AI helpers that whisper in our digital ear, "Hey, this email asking for a payment looks suspicious because of X, Y, Z." Even now, some email clients using AI will summarize and highlight that this message is asking for a transfer of funds, which could be a prompt to be cautious. The last one is human-in-the-loop systems. I want to mention this concept. Designing systems where AI and automation handle the grunt work, but human is kept in the loop for critical decisions. For example, an AI might handle 95% of spam filtering, but 5% of borderline cases get routed to a human analyst, or the recipient with clear caution flags. Or an AI could monitor employee reports and cluster them. If 10 people report a similar phishing email, the system alerts everyone automatically. This way, humans don't have to shift through everything, but they get to intervene when judgment or context is needed. The technology should elevate humans to focus on the toughest judgments, not replace them entirely.
That makes sense, using AI to do the heavy lifting and pattern spotting, then humans do the critical thinking part. Did I hear you hint at blockchain for authenticity? That's interesting.
Yes, some people have proposed using blockchain or similar to create an audit trail of information. For example, ensuring that an official press release or CEO's announcement has a verifiable origin and hasn't been tampered with. It could be a way to counter fake news or fake corporate announcements, which can be part of social engineering. Imagine a fake press release causing stock manipulation or employees acting on false info. However, that's still emerging and not widely used yet in daily business communications, but conceptually it is about trusted boundaries. To use a term from a recent research paper, cognitive security means having trusted boundaries, protecting our cognitive assets. In plain terms, boundaries could be tools or processes that help us trust what information is real.
And cognitive assets would include things like our decision-making processes and even AI systems themselves, right?
Exactly. That research was interesting. It defined cognitive security as a state where you protect both human minds and machine minds, AI, from unauthorized influence. They highlighted factors like cognitive agility, which means the ability of individuals and organizations to adaptively manage biases and think flexibly. In practice, technology can aid cognitive agility. For example, if I have a system that helps checks by biases, maybe an AI that says this source has low credibility. When I read a sensational article, it is helping me not be misled. We are not quite there with everyday tools, but it is an area of development.
It's like a future where your smart assistant can warn. You might be falling for a common scam pattern, almost like a cognitive coach.
Yes, that would be the idea. Until then, though, we rely on simpler tech aids and good processes. I should also mention technical controls that backstop human errors. These aren't new, but they are absolutely part of resilience. Things like multi-factor authentication, so even if a password is phished, the attacker still can get in, or password managers to prevent password reuse, since people reusing passwords is another human weaknesses. Good network segmentation and zero trust principles, so one compromised account doesn't unlock the whole kingdom. These measures don't directly change human behavior, but they mitigate damage when humans falter. It's like designing a car with airbags and anti-lock brakes. You assume at some point there will be an incident and you want the passengers protected.
I'm glad you brought that up. Sometimes in all this talk of human error, we might give the impression that the burden is entirely on users to be perfect, but it's not. It's a shared responsibility with technology and processes.
Exactly. We have to enable people to succeed. A classic example is phishing. No matter how much training you do, someone might eventually click. So what do? You layer defenses, ensure that one click doesn't immediately lead to catastrophe. Use web filters to block the malicious link if possible. Use application sandbox so that if they open an attachment, it runs in a safe environment. And crucially, have an incident response plan that treats employees as allies. If someone reports I clicked a bad thing, the response should be quick containment. Disconnect the machine, reset credentials, etc., not a witch hunt. This way, the organization is resilient. A breach attempt doesn't turn into a full breach because you contained it and learned from it.
So in summary, technology can provide detection and warnings, kind of like security assistance, and also safety nets to catch us when we slip, reducing the impact.
That's right. In a resilient organization, humans and tech form multiple layers of defense, each compensating for the gaps of the other. People can notice things machines don't, like gut feeling about a strange phone call, and machines can handle scale and speed beyond human capability, like scanning millions of emails for threats. Marrying the two is the winning strategy.
Let's pivot to measurement and frameworks. We've talked about doing all these great initiatives, but how can a CISO or a security leader know if their human layer defense is actually improving? What are the metrics or indicators of adaptive resilience? Because, as the saying goes, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Absolutely. Measurement in this domain has historically been tricky, but we are getting better at it. There are a few levels of metrics I would consider. One is behavioral metrics. There are direct observations of security-related behaviors. Common ones include phishing simulation click rates, what percentage of employees click on fake phish emails, and reporting rates, what percentage report the phish to IT. Over time, you want clicks to go down and reporting to go up. You can also track things like usage of password managers, adoption of two-factor authentication, how often people attempt to go to blocked malicious sites, indicating they almost fell for something. One security report noted we often find a small percentage of users account for a disproportionate amount of risky actions, so you might measure who those high-risk users are and whether that cohort shrinks after interventions. 2. Incident metrics. How many incidents or near misses occur due to human factors, and is that trending down? For example, number of malware infections from clicks, number of times employees sent data to the wrong email, etc. Also, how quickly are incidents detected and reported by staff? If employees are catching issues faster, say someone reports to a phishing email within minutes of receiving it versus it going unnoticed for days. That's a sign of empowered vigilance. The last one is resilience and culture metrics. These are a bit more qualitative but can be quantified via surveys and assessments. Some organizations do security culture surveys asking things like, do you feel confident identifying a phishing email, or do you believe security is a shared responsibility at our company? You can score these and watch trends. If more employees each quarter say, yes, I know how to report security issues and I believe the company encourages it, that's a positive sign. That's even a concept of a human resilience score being researched, a kind of aggregated measure of an individual's or group's resistance to social engineering. It might include their training history, their performance and risk, their role risk, etc., and to produce a risk score. Some security software platforms now incorporate this kind of scoring to highlight who might need an extra attention.
That's interesting, like a credit score for security behavior, possibly sensitive if not handled carefully, but I see the logic in prioritizing efforts.
Yes, it has to be done carefully and ethically. You don't want to stigmatize employees. It's about risk management, not blame. But that's true that, say, a new intern with no security background might be at higher risk of social engineering than a 20-year veteran who has seen it all, and that in turn might have less access to sensitive data, which factors into overall risk. So you weigh things like role, access level, the behavior to allocate your focus. One study or guideline I recall from a security awareness report said to consider both behavior and impact in metrics. Like measure how often high-privileged users are doing risky things because of one admin clicking a bad link is a bigger deal than maybe a random user doing the same.
Good point. So it's not just frequency of clicks, but who clicks and what they had access to.
Right. Another metric to watch is training effectiveness. Not just did people complete training, that's a vanity metric, but did it work? How to measure that? You can compare groups or time periods, phishing click rates before and after a new training program started, or track individuals. If John clicked 3 out of 5 tests email last year and only 1 out of 5 this year, that's improvement. Also, measure knowledge retention through unannounced quizzes or during instant postmortems. Ask the person, did you feel the training prepared you for this? If not, that's feedback that training needs a tweaking. Some advanced programs even measure responses to real suspicious activities. For example, if we send an urgent-looking request without proper authorization, as a test, do employees follow the process or do they bypass? These are like war game exercises to test procedures.
It sounds like a lot of this requires data collection and tracking. I assume privacy and trust need to be maintained. Employees shouldn't feel like Big Brother is scoring their every move.
Yes, that's crucial. I advocate transparency. Tell employees we measure overall risk clicks. We might identify those who need extra help, but the goal is to support, not punish, and never publicly shame the worst clicker of the month or something that backfires badly. Instead, focus on teams or company-wide trends and positive reinforcements. Many orgs share stats like phishing reporting went up 20% last quarter. Great job, team, to encourage everyone. We should also mention frameworks. There is, for instance, the Sun Security Awareness Maturity Model, which provides a framework from a very basic level program up to an adaptive risk-driven one. At the highest stage, which they actually renamed recently the Optimization and Resilience, the program is defined by having robust metrics and continuous improvement aligned with business goals. That's basically what we are talking about. You have integrated human risk into your overall risk management. You are measuring not just if people are learning, but how it reduces actual incidents and supports the company's objectives. For example, if a business priority is protecting intellectual property, you will measure and train for behaviors around data handling. Are people uploading code to personal drives? If a priority is quick incident response, you measure how quickly employees report findings or things. The idea is your metrics should tie back to outcomes that leadership cares about. That's how you get executive buy-in too. Show that by investing in human layer defense, you are reducing risk in quantifiable ways, like phishing click rate down 50%, estimated avoidance of X breaches.
That makes a lot of sense. It moves the conversation from we trained 100% of staff to we reduced phishing risk by 50% this year, which likely prevented Y number of incidents, saving Z dollars. If you look at breach cost averages.
Exactly. That's speaking the language of business and risk. We have more data than ever to make these cases. For example, research shows targeted repetitive training can reduce successful phishing rates significantly. I have seen figures like 25% reduction in click rates among high-risk users after a round of targeted training. If you can tie that to actual incident reduction, that's golden.
How about measuring resilience in terms of response, not just prevention? Like if an incident does happen, is there a way to gauge resilience in response?
Good point. One aspect of resilience is recovery. You might measure things like if a security incident occurred due to human error, how quickly did we neutralize it? How well did we involve employees follow the incident response steps? If last year a malware outbreak took 3 days to contain because an employee wasn't sure who to call and this year a similar incident was reported and contained in 3 hours. That's a measure of improved resilience. Also gauge if lessons learned from incidents are being incorporated. Many orgs do an after-action review for incidents. Part of that should be assessing if awareness or training could be improved. If you implement changes and see fewer repeats of the same incident type, that's metric 2.
It all ties back to creating that feedback loop we discussed.
Right, and one more thing, external validation. Things like phishing tests are internal, but you can also look at industry benchmarks. How do we stack up against peers in, say, phishing susceptibility or security culture scores? If you participate in industry surveys or use vendors that give benchmark data, it can be helpful to see if your human risk is above or below average, and track that over time. Ultimately, the goal is to get the point where you can confidently say, our people are not just aware, they are actively contributing to our cyber defense, and we can see that in our metrics.
That's a powerful statement to be able to make. As we get closer to wrapping up, let's look ahead. What emerging trends or future developments do you see in cognitive security and human layer defense? How will this space evolve in the next few years, especially as threats keep changing?
One trend is definitely the deeper integration of behavioral science into cybersecurity strategies. We touched on this, but I see it accelerating. Organizations are hiring people with psychology or neuroscience backgrounds to help design training and even to help design user interfaces that encourage secure behavior. We are realizing that security is fundamentally about influencing human behavior in a positive way. So, why not use the science of how humans learn and decide? For example, we are likely to see how more tailored approaches that account for different learning styles, generational differences, and cultural factors that motivates a group of software developers in one country might differ from what resonates with a sales team in another. The one-size-fits-all awareness program will die off, thankfully, and be replaced by more nuanced programs. Another big trend, cognitive threat intelligence, just as we have threat intel for malware and vulnerabilities. I think we will see more intel focused on emerging social engineering techniques, phishing kits, deepfake for hire services, etc. There are already companies and academic groups researching the latest in deepfake technology, scammer playbacks, and social media manipulation campaigns. The intel can feed our training content. For instance, if we learn that deepfake voicemail scams are spiking in our industry, we can simulate one in our next drill, or inform employees, hey, be on the lookout for calls that sounds exactly like so and so, because fakes are possible. So, staying ahead of the attackers means keeping an eye on how their methods targeting cognitive evolve.
That's interesting, essentially threat hunting for human-targeted attacks.
Exactly, and maybe even sharing that information across industries. I know financial services and healthcare have information sharing and analysis centers where they share threat info. They are starting to include social engineering incidents in that sharing, like, we saw someone impersonating a vendor with this method. Heads up, it's not just malware hashes anymore, it's a scam techniques. Also, we should talk about AI on defense more. I foresee more AI-driven coaching tools for users. We hinted at this. An email that auto-explains this link goes to a domain that's not typical for the sender, or an AI chat box that an employee can quickly ask, hey, is this email legit? And it can do some back-end checks for them. In other words, making security knowledge more on demand. Not everyone remembers all the training, but if help is a click away, that can be huge. Even something like a voice assistant. Imagine an employee getting a suspicious phone call and they could confer with an AI assistant in real time by typing a quick note or something. We have to balance convenience and security, but I see more personal security tools emerging.
What about the concept of cyber resilience at a more holistic level? We're focusing on human resilience, but often that ties into general business resilience. Do you see the conversation merging there?
Definitely, cyber resilience is the ability not just to prevent attacks, but to operate through them and bounce back. Human resilience is a pillar of that, so I expect more organizations will incorporate human layer considerations into their resilience planning. For example, business continuity exercises might include scenarios where key staff are targeted with disinformation or phishing during a crisis. A very realistic scenario if you think about it. Training people for crisis management in the face of cyber incidents is something we will hear more about. We have started talking about cognitive warfare in military circles, which is basically attacking the decision making of adversaries. Companies might not call it warfare, but they need to prepare for things like an attacker trying to show confusion during an incident, maybe by spreading false info internally and externally. So resilience will mean psychological preparedness in some form. That could involve training execs and comms teams on how to handle fake news or deepfake leaks, etc. So they don't make rash decisions. On a more positive note, I also see the workforce itself changing. New generations of employees might come in with better digital skepticism, or maybe worse, depending on education, but I hope as society becomes more aware of deepfakes and scams, it is in popular media now too. Basic cyber hygiene will improve like basic hygiene did after germ theory. For instance, kids today might learn about verifying online info in school, which eventually translates to better habits at work.
That's a hopeful angle. Building a naturally more cyber-aware society.
We have to strive for it, yes. Some countries are even talking about adding cybersecurity and critical thinking to school curriculums. Long term, that's how you really turn the tide. Raise a generation that's less easily duped by misinformation, and scams. But we in the industry have to lead the way in the meantime. Finally, I think regulations and standards will increasingly factor in the human element. We already have some frameworks that mention security awareness, but I suspect we'll get more explicit guidance on measuring and managing human cyber risk. Maybe even requirements for certain sectors to run regular drills or to have a security culture program. Just as safety regulation in factories include worker training and culture, cyber regulations might do the same. That will push companies who haven't taken it seriously yet to do so.
That's true. Compliance often drives action. If a regulator says you must have an ongoing security awareness program and show effectiveness, that lights a fire under management to fund it.
Exactly, but I always tell folks don't do it just for compliance. Do it because it genuinely reduces the risk and could save your companies from disaster. The good news is the conversation has shifted in the last few years. Boards and CEOs are asking how are we managing the human risk? Not just do we have the latest firewall? They have seen the headlines where a phishing email led to a multi-million-dollar breach. So I feel there is a momentum now to really innovate in this human defense space.
That's encouraging. So innovate we must, because attackers surely are innovating too.
They sure are, but I often say attackers may be creative, but defenders united are stronger. By turning our people from vulnerabilities into active defenders, we multiply our force. Each employee can an intrusion detector, a first responder, even a threat intel source if they report what they see. It's a very powerful thing when you achieve that.
We're coming toward the end of our time. This has been a really rich discussion. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask, what key takeaways would you want a CISO or security leader listening to this to walk away with? How would you summarize the path to adaptive resilience in the human layer?
Great question. I would boil it down to a few key takeaways. One is humans are central to security, not the weakest link to be reluctant managed, but potentially the strongest line of defense if we invest in them. Recognize the human layer as equal in importance to your technical controls. Make it a strategic priority. The second is awareness must evolve into behavior and culture. It's not enough that employees can recite the security policy. They need to live it in their daily work. That means continuous training, yes, but also embedding security thinking into the culture and habits of the organization. Aim for that stage where security is just part of how we do things here, woven into routines. The third is adaptive resilience is a journey, not a destination. Start with building basic awareness if you haven't, but keep leveling up to behavior change, to culture change, to measuring risk reduction. Use frameworks like Sun's maturity model as a roadmap, and continuously adopt as new threats emerge. Deepfakes, AI scams, whatever is next. Update your trainings and defenses. Never think we are done. And the another one, measure what matters. Track human risk in concrete ways. Click rates, report rates, incident response times, culture, attitudes. Use those metrics to demonstrate improvements and return on investment. When leadership goes that, they will support you more. And if something isn't improving, those metrics will tell you so you can change approach. The another one is foster a supportive security culture. Encourage people to speak up and report problems, celebrate the wins when an employee prevents an attack or even when they make a mistake but respond correctly. Replace blame with learning. This way, every incident or near miss makes the whole organization smarter and more resilient. Another one is leverage technology as an ally for people. Deploy tools that helps humans make better decisions, like warning banners, AI detection, and that catch their lapses, like MFA filters. It's about creating layers of safety. People shouldn't feel alone in defending the company. Technology should have their back. The last one is stay informed and innovative. Keep an eye on the threat landscape, new social engineering tricks, new attackers tech, and proactively adjust your human defense strategies. Network with peers, share what's working and what's not. We are all facing similar human factor challenges, so collective knowledge is powerful. If I could sum it up in one line, invest in your people's cyber instincts and make security second nature, and you will create an adaptive, resilient defense that can outsmart and outlast the attackers.
Fantastic summary. And I really appreciate how you frame humans as an asset to cultivate rather than a problem to manage. That mindset shift alone can drive a lot of positive change.
Definitely. People can sense how they are viewed. If employees feel respected and part of the mission, they are far more engaged in security efforts. If they feel like they are just the dumb users and the IT guys complain about, they disengage. So leadership attitude matters a lot. I often tell executives your words and actions set the tone. If you champion the human aspect of security, your employees will raise the occasion.
Well said. As we conclude, I'll attempt a quick recap of the value bombs you've dropped today. We learned that cyber threats are increasingly targeting the human mind through sophisticated phishing, deepfakes, and manipulation of trust, making cognitive security an urgent priority. Traditional one-off awareness training isn't enough. We need adaptive, ongoing education that builds true skills and habits, reinforced by a strong, blame-free culture. We discussed embracing novel strategies like microlearning, gamification, bias awareness, and just-in-time training to truly change behavior, not just impart knowledge. Building resilience means not aiming for zero incidents, but ensuring that your people can recognize, report, and recover from threats, quickly minimizing damage and learning each time. Metrics and frameworks guide the journey. Track human risk indicators and tie your security efforts to risk reduction outcomes. When you can demonstrate fewer clicks on bad links and faster reporting, you know you're on the right track. Technology should amplify human defenses, from AI tools that flag suspicious content to technical controls like MFA that provide safety nets. The goal is a human-tech partnership. And finally, staying adaptive is key. Threats will continue to evolve, but by fostering a learning culture and agile defenses, your organization's human layer can evolve too, turning what was once a weakness into a robust last line and often first line of defense. Did I miss anything critical there?
I think you captured it well. It's been a great conversation. We went through a lot, from high-level strategy down to the practical tips. If I would add anything, it's just to reiterate that this is doable. It might sound like a tall order to transform culture and all, but you can start small. Pick a few initiatives, get quick wins, and build on them. Over time, you really will see this shift, and that's very rewarding to watch that change happen.
Inspiring words. I hope our listeners, especially those in leadership roles, take that to heart and feel empowered to champion cognitive security and human-centric defense in their organizations.
I hope so too. The human element doesn't have to be an Achilles heel. It can be our greatest strength if we nurture it.
Thank you so much to our guests for sharing your expertise and insights. I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience did as well. This conversation really highlights the value of looking at security not just as a tech issue, but as a human one. Before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with the core message: by turning awareness into adaptive resilience, we empower our people to not only avoid the traps, but to actively thwart attackers and protect what matters. In a threat landscape full of AI-powered scams and psychological tricks, that human adaptability and judgment honed by good training and culture is a powerful defense. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe, stay sharp, and as always, stay resilient. Until next time.